All right, so we see Juan Soto. This was home run number 100. You can see it went a shy of 451 feet at 112 and a half miles an hour. So he hit it pretty good. We'll call it that. But if we break this down, we'll look at his stride. So this one, he actually picks up his foot. Remember, I mentioned earlier that he doesn't always do that. Sometimes he starts really wide. This one, he's picking up his foot. So here's one thing that I really like is as he brings his foot, I'm going to get to the furthest back he brings his foot. So I'm going to mark that when he has his foot in the air. That's his heel. And then I'm going to also mark the back of his head. Okay. And then we're going to play this out and bring him all the way to when his heel plants. Okay, so we're going to bring him to heel plant. And you can see his foot moved, his heel moved that far. I don't know how far that is. And his head only moved this far. If I could bottle this up and provide it to everyone that I teach, I would try to do that. His head moved about 20%, 25% of how far his front foot moved. This is how we stay behind the ball. This also, he's not collapsing though. That's the best part of this. Notice how his front shoulder is still down. I can't tell you how difficult this is. Usually, I try to get players when their front foot lands. I'm going to bring them to heel plant now. If I draw a vertical line, notice how I said try to get my players because it's not that easy. Okay, if I draw a vertical line from the middle of his head, it's over his left hip. It's over his back hip. That's really, really good. Okay. Also, notice how his front shoulder is still lower than his back shoulder. The combination of those two is very, very difficult. We spend a lot of time doing dry swings trying to get into that position. Okay, but that gives you a chance to stay behind the ball and not lunge. It's going to give you a chance on breaking balls to stay behind the ball if you have good extension, and you can use extension to save your swing if you're early. Okay, so great heel plant position. If you notice, we've done, I don't know how many, 28 other of these. Okay, and you can see his back knee is coming in, but he didn't get crazy with his lower body. Like if you look at Mookie Betts' lower body, way more aggressive than this. Okay, Mookie Betts' upper body probably even closed more than this. This is good, but this isn't like crazy. His back foot is still flat on the ground. I kind of like that. Even though the knee has come in, his back foot's still flat on the ground. Notice his base, right? We talk about this a lot, especially every one of my online members. What do we talk about? The base needs to be a couple inches wider than your inseams. His is more than a couple inches wider than its inseam. Okay? Like his base is wide. It's probably 36 to 37 inches wide. His inseam is probably 32, 33, 34 at the most. Okay, so wonderful position here at heel plant. Front shoulder down, head behind the center line. If we look at his top hand, it's right about at the bottom of his ear. Wonderful. Okay, now we're going to have him get to his short approach. And again, my favorite part, as we all know from the 28 other analysis, his elbow separation when he turns. They turn together. Okay, he's not smashing the elbows together. He's not dropping his elbow underneath his hands, right? Very vertical right here with the knob and his elbow. And as his back elbow comes down, his front elbow moves forward at the same rate. Totally crucial to being a successful hitter, regardless of age, right? Like if you could do that at age, I think we had a writer, somebody wrote in from Northern Virginia. Yeah, Tom. And so Tom's probably watching this and listening to this. Like his son, I'm trying to think how old. I think he's 8. Like he's so young. He's the youngest kid in there. He's so short to the ball. Like this kid's never gonna have to change. 8 years old. Like all he's got to do is play baseball and get timing because his mechanics are so good already. Okay, but he gets to a very similar position to this. Notice how the bat comes right down next to his shoulder. Notice how that head is staying totally stable. We talk about his back shin getting low. He gets off his backside, but he's not going crazy with his back foot. Okay. Why doesn't his back foot move? Oh, that's so good. It's better than I thought it was. It's only about 3 inches. The reason his back foot doesn't move too much, and for those of you out there, you know who you are, that move your back foot too much. I worked with 3 of them this week. You got to get more weight on your backside to do it. You gotta, when you get to heel plant, you gotta keep your head over your back hip. You gotta do that. If your head is here, Chris Taylor's is here. I'm not going to say it's wrong, but you better be really good at sitting behind after that. Okay. So this is just a good way to cheat, to stay back. If your head stays back of center, typically there'll be more weight in your back leg. If there's more weight in your back leg, your foot's still going to release and move, but it's not going to move as much. You look at his front leg straightening out through contact, doesn't get fully straight until about his power V position. He doesn't get full top hand extension here. Okay, he still hits this ball. Where does he hit it? Pardon me. So he hits it about right at his front ankle bone. And think about this, everyone out there. Okay, this is probably out in front for him because remember how wide he was? Okay, he's probably a couple inches too wide for his body. Not that this is bad, but if he had a normal base where his base was like the same length as his leg, so it's pretty much where I drew that. That line there is probably a similar length as his inseam. That might even be too long there. So think if his front foot was like this, right? His front leg was like that. That's what most guys look like. Okay, and this would be his instep. And this would be his pyramid, kind of like this. Okay. Now notice where he would make contact. It would be out in front of where I drew that line. Okay, so everybody's out in front is different based on how wide their base is. Okay, if you're a wide base person, and I love it, you have to let the ball get to behind your front toes. Okay, if you're a narrower base person, you have to hit balls in front of your front toes. Okay, so it's not the same for everybody. You have to know who you are as far as your legs are concerned. You can see his back elbows growing as well, meaning before contact, his top hand, his arm is, close to, what is that, 198 degrees. Okay. And then a frame after that, when he makes contact, it goes from 98 to 120, which is exactly what I like. That's funny how that worked out. 120, and then a frame after 120. So it went from 98 to 120 to 133. Okay, it's growing. He's extending. He's punching through. His left palm is still up after contact. And then he finishes his swing. And then if you look at the end of his swing, you're like, good Lord, like, look how low his back shin is. Look, he's on his front heel, like his front toes are off the ground. Would you teach somebody to do that? No. Why does he do that? Because he's wide. Like, he's really wide. And it's probably very difficult to keep your toes on the ground when you're that wide. Okay. Plus his front foot's closed. You know who else had a front foot closed like that? The guy we're going to do on our 100th episode, right? Barry Bonds. He had a closed front foot, but aggressive hips. So what happens to your front foot when it's closed and your hips exploded open? You end up spinning on your front heel. Okay? Again, it happens. Do you know how many coaches, amateur coaches, would be like, Juan, you can't hit that way. Juan, you're too wide. Juan, you can't rotate on your front heel. let him. No, but it's like sometimes, we can let him do it. I think if we pride ourselves on one thing at the lab, we really work around a player's natural physique and their flexibility and their style. And we try not to get in the way of that. We try not to change that. If you hit the ball 95 miles an hour and your back foot comes off the ground, but you consistently can square up a 90 mile an hour pitch shooting out of a machine with movement, buddy, let your back foot fly off the ground. Like, I'm not going to stress that. So, let's not make everybody the same. So let's fast forward a little more because we have a different view. Ooh, now we get to look at Juan's timing. How great. So this is priceless. I want you to watch his front foot. What does Shooter McGavin say? Here's a free lesson. Come on, Jim. Tell me you at least watch Happy Gilmore. It's okay. Next time I'll prep you a little more. It was a little after your time, I'm sorry, it's a little before your time. So if you watch Juan's heel and look at where the ball is with the pitcher right there. Okay. Then the pitcher brings his arm up. What does Juan do? I think I'll bring my foot up. And then the ball is released right about there. Here's the ball right out of the hand. Watch his foot. Is it still going up? No, it's on its way down. Okay, that's the key. You have to get your foot going early. This is the biggest problem with young players. He's picking his foot up well before the pitcher even brings his arm up. He's starting the process, and that way, when the ball is released from the hand, all he has to do is drop his foot. If we're lifting our foot at that time, life is going to be very, very difficult. Something that I try to work with all my players every single week is, and I know I beat this horse every single episode of getting going early and slow. I worked with a kid yesterday. We'll give Topher a shout out because he's the only Topher I've ever worked with in my life. And Topher was on fire. He set his distance record by like 15 feet yesterday. He broke his velo record by 5 miles an hour, and I saw him like a month ago. Like, he was on fire. What did we do? We started stepping earlier, which allowed him to complete his weight shift. That's all we did, and he picked up 5 miles an hour of exit velocity. So very, very important to get going on time and monitoring that. So that is the end of the Juan Soto portion of this video. If you would like more information, tune in to the show itself.